This is Tuesday, April 2nd. There are 115 days until San Diego Comic-Con 2024. Welcome to SDConCast, the official podcast of the San Diego Comic-Con unofficial blog.
VANUHTEE go.
Oh my God, I love Live Journal and my Live Journal loves me. Current food is hyperactive, current music, Refuge 73. I love the color scheme, it's pink and purple.
Well, good evening, everybody. I am your host, James Riley, and joining me on the podcast, as always, Carrie Dixon.
Hey guys, thanks so much for joining us.
I feel like maybe this year, maybe I should add like editor-in-chief of the blog, Carrie Dixon. Just give you a title.
You can.
Instead
Are we just gonna call you like? Are we just gonna call you like Lorcana Superfan? Is that your title?
I'm the host.
Okay, fair enough.
There we go.
I'm just here.
Everybody. Welcome to SDConCast. This is our special edition post WonderCon episode, where we'll go over what we thought of the convention and talk about what happened at the show. If you have any comments or questions, you can tweet us at SD_comic_con or use the hashtag SDConCast. And we will, of course, be keeping an eye on the YouTube live chat if you wish to comment there. So let's talk overall first impressions. And actually, I want to start with you, Carrie, because you were watching it from away,
Afar.
and you could see in general what was happening through social media. So what was your general impressions of the convention from afar?
Yeah, so I didn't go this year. James did. Several members of our team did. And we have their answers, which we'll also be talking about here later in the show. But I will say, like, leading up to the con this year, it felt, I don't know, enthusiasm just didn't seem to be very high based on, like, leading up. It seemed like it was less than in other years. But once the convention actually started, like, everybody seemed like they were having fun. Everybody seemed like they were in a great mood. Everybody just seemed like really happy to be there. So I feel like since the pandemic, everybody is still just excited to be back at conventions. So that was very much the vibe that I got based online off of attendees. There were some issues, which we will go into a little bit later. But for the most part, yeah, I mean, everybody seemed like they were having fun. What did you think?
I had a good time. I think my general enthusiasm was down. I don't think the rain really helped, which, that was kind of a downer.
No.
But I had a good time while I was there. It was tiring. It was painful because we still have cement floors, and
Yep.
when your foot is already a little bit hurting, it just really exacerbates the situation. So that was an issue for me personally. But it didn't look like, it was crowded when I walked the entire floor on Saturday in chunks. I did like, a third at a time in between panels.
Yeah.
And it was crowded a lot of the time. It was very difficult getting through certain areas of Artist Alley. So,
which we love that you guys go to Artist Alley, and that pretty much seemed to be what I could gather from online. Friday looked light, but Friday is always light because people work. Saturday looked very busy. Sunday looked less busy, but still pretty crowded. So, I mean, attendance seemed to be decent. It's obviously not the attendance that it was a couple years ago, because a couple years ago it would sell out. So we're not at that attendance level, but it still seemed very well attended from what I could see.
So let's just hit into what people thought of it, right?
Yeah, so I'm going to start with you, but we also asked these questions to Sean and Cam, and we'll go through their answers as well. But for you, James, I mean, what was the overall highlight of the convention for you?
Well, for me, I mean, believe it or not, or believe it, because it is what my life is right now. It was Lorcana based.
I knew it. I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah. So I I had multiple cards of their cards, including an Enchanted, which is their rarest chase cards in each set. And so it's her name's Casey Robin, and I took 4 cards, but I only got 3 of them signed. And so I got 3 cards signed by her, and she was really nice, and she signed them in the perfect spots by picking the spots where the autograph wouldn't interfere with the art or the card or itself. And no, that was just really cool. And it's, it's not getting original art or anything like that, but getting an autograph from the artist who actually created that art on the cards that, I own was very cool. So that was definitely a highlight.
Will you open up screen sharing? Because for the people actually watching this, you posted a photo online of you getting one of these cards signed, and Aaron and I were both like, this is the happiest that James has ever looked, like literally ever. So if you were watching live, like, you can see, look at how happy James looks. He looks thrilled.
Yes, I was very thrilled.
Yes.
And of course,
That's awesome.
I let Casey hold the Enchanted, the special one, which is why you can barely see it, because it's shining all that light and the foil off of it. So no, it was awesome.
Good.
Uh,
so go ahead.
I'm trying to think of what other highlights there were. I mean, that was the main highlight. There was some other fun things and stuff like that, but yeah, we'll move on. That was the highlight.
Perfect. So we asked Sean and Kim for their answers as well, and I'm going to let you read Sean's, and then I'll read Kim's.
Oh, I get to read them?
Yeah.
All right.
I said you can read Sean's.
Sean's highlight.
And then I'll read Kim's.
Okay, this is Sean's. The highlight of the show for me was the Star Trek Strange New Worlds Subspace Rhapsody and signing. It was really fun to see how excited the room was to sing along, and then it was even better seeing how the creators behind the episode were so moved by it. It really seemed like life highlights, and they weren't shy about that emotion. Then to get the poster afterwards and have it signed was icing on the cake. It was such a nice end for however many of us were in that room that had the booth closed on us at SDCC. Really grateful for that night.
And I think that's such a nice, like, full circle moment, because I think Sean would for sure tell you that, like, one of the worst things about his experience at Comic-Con last year, like, was basically that poster giveaway. So for anybody who doesn't know, at the end of the panel last year, they said, like, okay, we're giving away a free poster, go to the booth. And so then thousands of attendees descended upon the booth, which was not a good plan. And I mean, they pretty much like had to close the booth down almost immediately. I think Sean told us that like it was one of the most unsafe situations he had ever seen at Comic-Con. And it was just not good. But for that to go from like one of his worst moments at Comic-Con last year to being his top moment at WonderCon this year, to where like he got to go to the sing-along, and then afterwards the creators were giving out the poster and they signed it for him. Like, I just think that's a really nice full circle moment there.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So Kim, I love this. She said that her highlight was the prize mule, because Kim was wonderful enough to be our prize mule at the convention this year. She said, I had the great pleasure of prize muling with the Fall Guys shirts that were kindly sent to the blog from NBC Universal. I can't put into words how cool it was to see the excitement from the UBlog readers I met. My many thanks to them for being so excited. It made me wonderfully happy. Plus, the movie looks great. And then runner-up goes to the gaming track. I had so much fun painting a tiny figure one night, which is not something I would normally take the time for at a larger convention. I want to give a shout out to the volunteers who spend hours there taking players on epic journeys and teaching us about games and painting figures. Second runner-up goes to Priscilla Wilson and friends stamp rally that took players around the convention hall to visit booths and see artists that we might not have otherwise had a chance to visit. So
yes,
I think
very cool.
I think it's a great answer. And that's one of the nice things too about WonderCon is like your schedule is not jam-packed with things every second of every day. Don't get me wrong, we love that at San Diego, but sometimes it's nice to just like wander and experience new things, you know?
Go to a comic convention where you can go and do convention-y things besides waiting and seeing panels.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how was the general attendee mood? So, I know we talked about this a little bit earlier, but what did you see? Like, did people just seem grateful to be there? Did you think there was a little bit of a lack of enthusiasm compared to other years? Like, what was your takeaway?
I feel like it seemed fairly normal to me. People were it's just normal, it seemed. I mean, there was nothing really up or down about it, I don't think.
Yeah.
In the panels, people were asking the usual questions and generally being engaged into things to the level they normally are. Down on the floor, people were stopping and shopping and doing stuff like that, doing all those kinds of things. So I didn't see anything that shifted it one way or the other. The only thing that was different really about this than other WonderCons really was just that a lot of the cosplay moved indoors because of the rain. That was about it.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I will read Sean's answer and you could read Kim's on this one, mixing it up. So Sean said that people seemed happy in most cases. We mostly focus on comics and toys on that side of the street. There were some really great offerings. It was probably the best representation on the toy side we've ever seen. Many of the vendors in those areas were pretty positive as well. So some great feedback there.
That's good. Let's see. I would like to point out that Just Hanging in the chat says a lot of families with kids, more so than there used to be. So that's good.
Yeah.
Got to get those kids hooked on cons early, right?
Yeah.
Kim says, Carrie, you pointed out a tweet by Gail Simone that got me thinking, which is, let me see if I can read this tweet here. I'll get it in a second. I wasn't prepared on this one.
You're okay.
So Gail Simone said, whenever it decides to load, dear everyone at WonderCon, I had no idea what the reaction would be after not having done cons for a bit, but the welcome has been incredible. Every signing slammed, every panel packed, and people excited about comics again, all kinds of comics. It's been amazing. Thank you. So that's really good to hear. So
Yeah.
Kim says, I don't know if it was the weather and the rain banding us together, or if it's just appreciation for events like this after the lean years, but people definitely seemed enthusiastic and incredibly supportive of the cosplay, art, and general experience they were having. LobbyCon was even a little more hopping this year. The feel of the Her Universe panel with Ashley Eckstein and their support of the crafting community made me tear up. I do hope this enthusiasm was reflected in the vendor sales as well to keep them supported and coming back.
Well,
So,
very
yeah,
nice.
definitely.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, again, like this is one of the great things about smaller conventions is I feel like you do feel a little bit more like sense of community sometimes. So what was your biggest surprise at the convention this year?
Ooh. I don't know if there was anything that was really surprising, honestly. Was there anything surprising? Oh, the panel that I went to, the first panel I went to.
Oh yeah.
This could fit a lot of different categories. It was the animals on screen panel that we talked about before that was like, oh, look, it's animals. Maybe they'll be puppies. There were no puppies. There wasn't even anything close to puppies. There was a couple of videos of animals either getting abused or attacking people to prove, to do the job of what the panel was for, was to show that movie animals are mistreated horribly. And so it was not the panel that we were expecting, which was a surprise and not a good one.
I have a feeling that Beth was like, what have you dragged me to?
I know we were all like, okay, cool. The company that one of the ladies on the panel runs is called Lions and Tigers and Bears. And it's like, well, who doesn't like, seeing lions and tigers and bears or whatever, or talking about them. And it's like, no. So
it
that might have been that was the surprise.
Well, I think that definitely fits the bill. So Sean said his biggest surprise was getting the Trek poster, which we talked about. But since I've already talked about this, I'll go Hasbro. I was surprised that Hasbro really did have a number of announcements and that they seemed pleased and teased returning the next year. So I want to talk about this for a second. It definitely felt light on like the vendor side as far as like big toy companies. But he's right. Like I feel like several companies brought announcements to their panels at WonderCon. And even like smaller companies got a chance to shine, like Jack Specific, their giveaways. Like I saw those all over Twitter for those Sonic toys. So I don't know. Maybe this is like the new world. Like maybe instead of bringing a big booth or something, like you just go, you put on a presentation, you announce some things, you still get the buzz.
Yeah, if you think about it, you know, there's so much noise at Comic-Con and other major massive conventions that, you know, you can't put something out and expect it to get heard by a vast majority of your audience, right? But if you come to a place like WonderCon where there's no real major announcements happening, you become the major announcement due to lack of noise, really.
Yeah.
And you can make a bit of a splash. And the thing is we were in a panel right before the Hasbro panel, and we walked out and we actually ran into Sean and Carmel waiting in line, and the lobby was packed in front of there. Like it was a lot of people were going to that panel. I'm like, what is this for? So it was actually fairly surprising that it was that crowded for that panel, which is cool. Kim's biggest surprise was the celebrity videos for the Q&A during Collider's Directors on Directing panel. She had not previously been to one of these panels, so perhaps it's common, but she loves seeing Bear McCreary and Emily Blunt and many more pop up. The 4 directors, Matt Bettinelli-Olpin and Tyler Gillette, who did Scream 5 and 6, Ready or Not, and the upcoming Abigail. David Leitch, who has Fall Guy coming out, and Wes Ball, who has Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes coming out. They all gelled with each other in their discussion of movie making with really insightful details of what it takes to get a movie done from start to finish, with hundreds of people making decisions on each level of production that the director choreographs. She said it was amazing stuff.
It looks really fun. I mean, honestly, had I been to WonderCon, like this would have been my number one, because first of all, I freaking love the directors who did Scream 5, 6, and Ready or Not, which is one of my favorite movies, and I'm very excited about Abigail. But yeah, I mean, it looks fun. The buzz about Fall Guy has been fantastic. Everything I've heard is like, it looks freaking amazing. So it's really cool that Collider has continued to do these panels at both WonderCon and San Diego and bring together some nice talent.
When a lot of big stuff is just skipping WonderCon, it's nice to see that this is continuing to happen there.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could improve one thing for next year, what would it be, James?
I mean, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? I want the carpeting back.
Also, I thought you were going to say you want Lorcana to exhibit there.
No. You know what? Forget the carpeting, because that's nothing we can do about it. I want them to not hold it on Easter weekend, and or not the end, have Friday, the Friday that is it's starting is the end of the month, because that means I can never go. So personally, I would like it to happen the week before, the week after, something to where it's just not at the end of month and not on Easter weekend. I know that's probably the cheapest one in that time frame, but still, it would be nice to be able to go to more of the convention.
Well, you get one of those things next year. You don't get both, but it is not on Easter next year.
Oh,
but it is the last weekend of March still.
Oh, well, there you go.
So yeah, I'm sorry, very sorry. Do you want to read Sean's answer?
Sure. Sean's thing to improve. It's nothing that any show can do about it, but really wish Marriott and Hilton would get back to having more robust food offerings. The hours are still dramatically reduced since the closure, and it's starting to feel like this is just what it is.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think they close like at 6 or something like that, 6 or 7.
That's so early.
Yeah, at the latest, I think they may be open till 8. And I think even last time we were there, I forgot to check this year, so Sean would probably have to let us know. But I think there was like spaces for 5 or 6 different type little restaurants to vend there in the Hilton. I think it is, and I think during last year's convention that we went down there, I think there was only like 3. maybe 4. So they didn't even have like all of them filled.
Yeah.
Xavier Behavior says, just hang out at Alex Ross's booth. They have the best carpet at Comic-Con. Yeah, but was Alex Ross at WonderCon though? I don't think they put that
No,
whole booth, right? So no
no.
awesome carpeting. I agree though. If you want to rest, you just go stand at Alex Ross's booth for a little bit and rest your feet because that carpet's like 18 feet thick.
Yeah, absolutely. So for Kim, her improvement, she said, I would love some more immersive booths and offsite experiences. They have existed at WonderCon before, and she is correct. And they can exist again. Shout out to the last Luminian booth, which had a cast of characters and a ship to visit with all sorts of trinkets inside to play with. Plus, they gave out great swag, including the first book of the series. You know what? I don't feel like I saw anything on social this weekend really about that booth, but it sounded really cool.
It was top notch. I walked by it and I'm like, what movie is this for? I mean, it looked like a movie booth and it was for a book. So yeah, there was people dressed up. There was like lights and it was lit up. There was electronics. I mean, it looked pretty fancy. So, A+ to them for getting a booth in there that looked that good.
I mean, there were several names that like Comic-Con attendees should definitely recognize that were behind that actually. So like XLE Productions, which does the nightclub kind of parties. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah. They helped put that together. One of the ladies who does a lot with Legion M, she helped put that together. So they had some good names behind it. But yeah, we do. We need more offsites back. I mean, it's hard. They used to do like screenings, but since they closed the closed theater, the only theaters now are way, way far away. So they don't really do that anymore. But we used to have like, didn't the Terror bring something one year? They had like outside. FX is the Terror. Do you remember what I'm talking about? They had like, it was like a van.
Maybe, yeah.
I swear they did. But yeah, I mean, like they used to have like actual things. There was a street team this year for something
that never could go out on the street because of the rain.
Yeah.
They did it in the lobby, I think.
Yeah, but we need more of that. So, because we love that kind of stuff. So, what were your overall thoughts of the con?
I mean, it was WonderCon. It was it was just a convention. A convention you go to do the things you enjoy at a convention, but nothing like exceptionally like massive. I think that's the thing. It's just not, you do expect massive at Comic-Con, massive lines, massive productions, massive offsites. Just everything is big and you just like, it's just overload. And there is really no overload at WonderCon. It's just a really nice medium-sized convention to go to. It's almost become like more of just a really good local convention. Since there's, less studio presence and less comic presence, from the major publishers. It's just like everyone else has a chance to get their little 15 minutes in. And that makes it just more of an all-around good convention to go to for people who just really want to go to comic conventions. It's obviously not good if you're going for an SDCC experience, because it just doesn't have that kind of stuff anymore. Where it used to have we used to call it SDCC Light, and I don't think it really fits that anymore. It really is just more of just a regular good local convention.
Absolutely. No, I agree with all of that. Yeah, and I mean, we've talked about this a lot internally, but like as the convention landscape has shifted over the years, I mean, it used to be I've heard the one complaint that I've heard probably most from attendees is like, well, there was no Hollywood, like there were no actors, they're really. And the thing you have to remember is that Comic-Con is totally different from pretty much every other convention. Like just about every other convention, they pay to bring the guests, and then like they get a cut in turn of the autographs and the photo ops and all that. Comic-Con is a not-for-profit. the studios bring the talent. So Comic-Con does not really control that. Their special guests are very different as well from like the other conventions. So again, you know, like Reed Pop, they might bring in Chris Evans. Whereas Comic-Con is going to go, okay, here is this legend in comics who we feel has been undervalued. We're going to bring them in to give them a spotlight. That's their kind of special guest. And it's just like, it's not the same convention.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people now are so used to the Reed Pop, Wizard World, Fan Expo, whatever, all the other kind of conventions that they're just not so much used to the WonderCon model anymore. And I don't know. I think it's going to be really interesting to see like how WonderCon adapts in the years to come to that, because it does feel, to me at least, like that's sort of the attendee expectation. The general attendee, like not, you know what I mean. So
I must say it was really nice. And Tom at Committed Comics mentioned it earlier. This is both a complaint and a nice thing. The complaint he has is they really need to fix the floor plan because Small Press was at one end of the convention and Artist Alley is at the other end of the convention, and those really should be next to each other. But on top of that, the fact that things are separated like this, where you know you have Small Press, and then right next to Small Press is like basically every comic dealer that's there. So you can just go shopping for your comics, and then next to them is, you know, toy dealers or whatever else it may be. And they're basically there's just like they do it at Comic-Con, there's sections of the floor for the things you may like. You can go to your section of the floor and do your shopping for the things you like. And there were still plenty of comic dealers there, you know, having every comic from, you know, Golden Age all the way up. So there was plenty of comic dealers. And like Sean said, there was a lot of toy dealers there. There was pins. There was, you know, gaming stuff with, you know, near the gaming section in the back, there was a bunch of gaming vendors selling dice and all kinds of games and board games and card games and everything. So it was definitely, it's nicely done to where you can go and find the stuff you want because they have a little bit of everything. But yeah, Tom pointing out where those two things are on the other side of the convention probably is the only thing that probably should be switched around.
Oh, for sure. Well, and that's been a complaint for years, is like that poor Small Press feels kind of relegated, and especially this year with no Funko in that corner, which definitely draws a lot of people. It's I've never been a huge fan of that layout for specifically that reason. It's just because Small Press does feel so segregated. But let's talk about Sean and Kim's overall thoughts of the con. Sean said, really enjoyed the weekend. It was strange having the rain hang over it, but people seemed pretty good about dealing with it. There were not big activity celebs, but there was a ton of Hollywood, if open to writing, FX, directing, etc. Between the strikes, over reliance on streaming revenue, and other self-imposed injuries, Hollywood is a disaster right now. So he found it pretty impressive how much of a presence there was given the companies, how much of a presence there was given the companies are in such disarray right now. And he's right. Like, I will say, when the schedule came out, there was a lot more Hollywood panels than I expected. We did for sure get some cast. Like we got Resident Alien, Spiderwick Chronicles. Like there was definitely some actors there, and it was more than I had expected leading up to that panel announcement. So that was a nice surprise. It's just, again, you know, it's just not what it was a couple years ago. But I think they did a good job of filling out the schedule.
And Kim's is basically a very nice, concise version of what I said that took so many words. Kim says, a great time. San Diego Comic-Con is hard work. WonderCon is a laid-back version that still allows everyone the fun of geekery. So yes. Yeah, that's what it is. Yep. I did talk to someone about, because I see that David Norman mentions this could be the first normal Comic-Con since 2019 with no strikes and no pandemic and restrictions and all that, and really looking forward to it. But we do have, did the next other strike, was it the IATSE strike? Is that actually going to happen, or?
I don't know the answer to that.
Because I heard from a friend who said that, you know, that may be the next thing, because that she works in in Hollywood, and she said that a lot of shows just aren't um, really picking up steam yet because they're waiting to see what happens with that next possible strike.
Yeah.
So, we'll have to wait and see what actually happens with that one. It probably isn't going to be as severe as the other strikes, I don't think, but it still could affect things. So we'll have to wait and see.
Absolutely.
But we did have some other issues with the convention, things that maybe wouldn't affect everyone, so not everyone would have known about them. And the first one was vendor issues. And what were those?
So there seemed to be a lot of different rules for different vendors. I mean, based just on Twitter, there were several vendors who complained that the rules about their displays had changed and that they were not being consistently enforced. So like some folks were being told, let me go find one of these threads. So some folks were being told like that their displays couldn't be 8 feet tall, they could only be 6 feet. And then they told other people like, well, it can't go across. They just told vendors a lot of things, and again, I don't have the actual vendor guidelines, but based on several people's comments, it sounds as though this was not necessarily communicated ahead of time. So we did see multiple vendors, like they would post their setup either like Thursday night or early Friday, like before open. And then by the end of the con, like their setup looked totally different because they had to change their whole display because supposedly like it just wasn't communicated very well about the rules.
Right. And so the two things about this are the lack of communication about what was actually allowed, and secondary to that, not enforcing it consistently on everybody.
Yes.
It's like they went through and whoever was, which I'm guessing it was maybe the fire marshal was doing it. Or was it convention? I mean, was it Anaheim convention staff? Was it a fire marshal? Was it Comic-Con convention, Comic-Con staff? We don't know. But whoever was doing it, maybe they got a couple of rows in and they got tired and they're like, all right, I guess that's enough enforcing the rules, and, gave up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who knows?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's in this thread, there's one vendor saying that like they were asked to pay, I think, $100 for another chair. And then somebody replied to them and was like, when I got to my booth, there was just like a second chair already there for free. you know?
So what's going on?
Yeah, it's just very inconsistent. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other issue, also full of inconsistencies, is the cosplay issues, where people found out when they showed up that certain things were not being let in. And of course, the usual is, no working weapons. You need to tie down anything that's like a sword or a blade or anything like that. But apparently the rule came down from somewhere that,
no
part
metal.
of the no weapons was no metal at all. So like if your fully plastic gun, fake gun, had a metal trigger, they wouldn't let you take it in. Or if it had like a little piece of metal on the tip of it to block it, like a cap or something like that, no, can't bring it in. Lightsabers, can't bring them in. This was despite the fact someone pointed out that one of the special guests of the show for the masquerade was the Saber Guild, bringing all of their lightsabers in to do a performance. And some of them, because they were showing up throughout the day, some of them got stopped and weren't able to come in. So they actually had to go and talk to convention staff and figure out what was going on, and kind of like, are you guys sure you don't want people that you said was coming in to do the masquerade to be able to come in and do the masquerade, kind of a thing. So a lot
I know,
of people,
and I'm honestly, I mean, I don't know the answer, but I'm honestly very curious to know, like, if this rule came from Comic-Con or if it came from the Anaheim Convention Center or just who it came from.
Right. And that's the problem. And then because there was 4 different stations for checking cosplay, also maybe it also was depending on who at that station did the interpreting or the level of enforcement. So like, could you go into one gate and not have it bothered, but you go into the other gate, So like people also, I think it was referenced where someone, like, because they were selling, like, there's a lightsaber vendor on the show floor. If you bought a lightsaber there, walked out to go get some food, and tried to come back in, they wouldn't let you in with something you bought at the show.
Which is wild. Like, it just, I don't know. It's like, you have to understand like the intent of rules. Like, you don't have to follow it to the letter. Like, understand the intent.
Yes. Don't bring in real
It's
weapons, people.
just,
And then if it's a
yeah,
fake gun and it has a metal trigger, I think that's okay. It should be
I
okay.
agree. I agree. I think it's very silly, but hopefully that's not an issue at Comic-Con. There was a really good article that I will post after the show from the, I think it was the wife of somebody who actually did work the weapons check, and they had some really interesting things to say about just like what they were hearing. And again, it's like, you never know, like maybe they're being directed from a security guard who heard it from a security guard who heard it from a security guard, like, but who
Yeah.
knows. But it's a good article, so I will post it after this.
All right.
Yeah.
Those were really the major issues, I think.
Yeah, those were the two big ones. Those were for sure the two big ones. I will say again, I heard from a lot of vendors just in general that like it felt more than ever like everyone at WonderCon, again, from like the fire marshal to the Freemans to just everybody was just kind of trying to nickel and dime vendors, which I don't love. So I really hope that that improves in future. And I've also heard, for what it's worth, I've also heard like it's not just WonderCon. Like I've heard it's other conventions as well,
Right.
the Anaheim Convention Center. So
Everyone's got to make back all of that lockdown money as fast as possible,
I know, but I hate it.
Yep. Okay. That's about it. I mean, is there anything else about WonderCon we wanted to talk about? I did go. The other panel I went to go see was the Bill Sienkiewicz panel. That was very well attended. Pretty happy to see that. Todd McFarlane did a guest surprise intro. So it was cool seeing Todd McFarlane for a couple of seconds.
Yeah.
Other than that, I mean, I just walked around the show floor and went to those couple of panels and had a good time. And then the cement killed my feet so much that I actually couldn't go on Sunday. I just was not going to be able to put up with walking that much on the next day. So
Yeah.
I only managed the one day, but I had a good time while I was there.
Well, there you go. That's really all that matters. So if you guys have any questions, you can put them in the chat, but I already know what your number one question is, which is when is the hotel sale for Comic-Con? In fact, several of you were asking that before we even started the show. So the short answer is we don't know. Because they haven't announced it yet. The longer answer is it's pretty much guaranteed that it will be in April. If you look back historically, it is for many years been in April. So last year it was April 12th, but the convention was also a week earlier. And I have also heard that the vendor hotel sale happened later than normal. So I also wouldn't be surprised if the hotel sale maybe got like pushed back a week or two to happen like at the very end of April. But we will see. I would definitely not expect it like this week. Comic-Con staff also typically likes to take a break after WonderCon. But I think starting anytime next week, stay alert. The good news is, as always, for the general hotel sale, is they do give you some notice. They usually give you like 2 to 5 days notice. So you'll get a couple days heads up to stress yourself out. Lucky you.
2 to 5
Yep.
days to stress out about doing it, and then 3
Yep.
days to stress about whether you got it.
Yep.
So yeah, plan on a full week of stress.
Yes, absolutely. So it's pretty much always been on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. So I would assume that it's going to be one of those. So keep an eye out. We will definitely post as soon as we know. I have a vague guess for when I think it's going to be, and it's silly because I'm on a plane that day, but I'm not gonna say that out loud and give anybody any ideas. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want anyone listening and being like, "Oh, that's the day. Let's pick that day. Move
Yeah,
everything and
let's
put it
do
on
that
day."
day. No, thank you. Yeah, so we'll see what happens, but we will be here to hold your hand through it as always. Anybody who's done it, you know how it works. Make sure you're following the SDCC hotel tracker on Twitter. Like, if you don't get what you want, they were a lifesaver last year. And I will say, I mean, early bird, if it's not sold out right now, like there is very, very, very limited availability, which does not fill me with great hope that this year is going to be more available than last year. But we'll see.
We'll probably get just the one week of placings like we did last year.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yep, I think so too. So my biggest question at this point, honestly, is what are they going to call the hotel sale this year? So I got real tired of fighting that battle.
Hotel extravaganza.
Can we all just agree to just call it Hotel Apocalypse? Like everybody knows what that means. Like,
what was the actual general hotel sale? What was it?
So Comic-Con has called it the General Hotel Sale pretty much like forever, okay? And they called it the General Hotel Sale last year. However, On Peak came along, and then like the sale after this, where it's like live inventory, and like it's just a free-for-all. They called that the General Hotel Sale. And I had like hundreds of people arguing with me, like, what do you mean? Like, that wasn't the General Hotel Sale. This is the General Hotel Sale. And I'm like, no, fucking On Peak is wrong. Like, Comic-Con called this the General Hotel Sale. It's been the General Hotel Sale for years. Like, do not let On Peak win. On Peak. I still like you because I still want you. On Peak is not your friend, but I still like you, On Peak, because I want you to give me the room that I want. But
don't read my name on the screen.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well,
yeah.
I guess that's.
Aaron, well, real quick, Aaron in the chat says, "Is it time to book SDCC commissions yet?" And the answer is, it might be. Andy on our team is actually working right now to start gathering some SDCC commissions because we do have a couple of folks who are open. So we should be posting that here pretty soon. So if you cannot wait to get a jump start on your commissions for Comic-Con, you can do that real soon.
There you go. All right. Anything else? A short convention is a short wrap-up podcast because
yeah.
It rained. We went. We went.
Rained.
We saw stuff. We bought stuff. We dressed up. I did not actually once make it out to the food trucks. One, because it was raining, and it did actually stop raining in the afternoon. And a lot of people. I mean, it was funny because like the lobby just kind of poured out into the plaza again, and then just shrank back in as soon as it started sprinkling again. But I never made it out to the food truck, so I never even saw how they were doing. So parking was available up until I think after the convention started, which is usually not the case. Usually parking at the convention center is pretty full. But no, I mean it's just a good little convention. I had a good time. Let's talk about what's coming up with the show. The SDConCast will return for its somethingth season, like 12th, 13th season, something like that.
Do you know this year will be the blog's 15th anniversary?
Wow.
Isn't that scary?
Wow.
I think that's scary.
And the podcast, 15, that means it started in 2009. And the podcast started in 2011, so that means it is 2 years past. So it's 13th year.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Okay. So the new season will start on May 7th. We will be doing weekly shows leading all the way up until Comic-Con, and of course, we'll be doing our schedule breakdown over 2 days when the schedule drops 2 weeks before the show. We're gonna have special guests. We're gonna have all the exclusives news. And just, all the things that we cover as we go into Comic-Con 2024. So there you go.
I'm ready. Not ready, but I'm going to say that I'm ready.
No, you're gonna go have a vacation and then you'll be ready.
Yeah.
And then
let's
you'll
go
be
with
like
that.
2 weeks behind and then never ready for the rest of the year.
Yep, pretty much. Yeah, so you can sign up for our newsletter. The links to do that are on the site. We are definitely not sending it out right now, but we will in like June and July. I also just want to give a shout out to our patrons who are awesome. We do have some exciting stuff planned for you guys that I really need to get a jump on, but we are so grateful for you guys. All the money that we get goes right back into the site, our hosting, giveaways for you guys. Like, we love you guys, so thank you so much for everything you do. If you appreciate the work that we do, links to do that are also up on the site.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. And Carrie, where can people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at Carrie Dixon. James, where can we find more of your work on the internet?
I am everywhere online at Dan Regal, and you can check out my Lorcana podcast I'm the co-host of called Citizens of Lorcana, if you want to listen to me talk every week about all things Lorcana. Thank you to Beth, the producer, for editing the show and getting it into your ears when it gets posted on all the podcast platforms. And so thank you very much for that.
Absolutely. We are on iTunes. If you'd like to subscribe, the links are up on the blog, or you can search for SDConCast. If you like what you've heard so far, please review us. We're also on Stitcher Radio and Spotify, and the links are in the show notes.
If you want to get a hold of us, you can send us an email at info@sdccblog.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/sdconblog or tweet us at sd_comic_con. Thank you all for watching and listening, and everybody go shawarma. All right. Go play me some more Kana now.